Happy Easter! All right, I know our video's coming a little later than you're used to, but it's still coming out to you. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming to the services.
Yeah.
We had some...
It was a great weekend.
Yep, and then that was... could only make it possible by, you guys being there to participate. And God put that all together, and it was glorifying Him. So
We are on week
14
14
That's
of our
right.
Bible reading.
That's right. We're moving right along, people. We have accomplished so much, and we're so thankful to God for just getting us through it.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to touch base on just a few things. So to start off in Deuteronomy.
Okay, yeah, I guess I can start.
Okay.
We'll kind of try to keep this video a little shorter. I know everybody's busy with the holidays, so I just wanted to touch base in the reading Deuteronomy 29 and chapter 30, which was read on April 6th. That was that day. It just really jumped out at me, I guess, pretty much the whole passage, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just to kind of sum it up a little bit, Moses was talking about the covenant that God was making with Israel, reminding them of all the things that He had brought them through. Their sandals didn't wear out. He brought them out of Egypt and traveling, and He reminded them too, as they traveled and went through different nations, that they seen the different idols that other nations worshipped. Some were made of wood, stone, silver, and gold. But the couple verses that jumped out at me, verse 18 in chapter 29, it says, "Be sure there is no man, woman, clan, or tribe among you today whose heart turns away from the Lord our God to go and worship the gods of those nations. Be sure there is no root among you bearing poisonous and bitter fruit." So just to think about other gods made of these things, it was hard for me to imagine people worshiping something made of stone or wood, how somebody's heart would desire to do that. But they did back then. Those are things, and I'm sure there's people today in other countries, cultures, I think, that even do that, probably right here in the U.S. But growing up and, learning about God in a Christian home, you don't realize that there's other people that do turn to these things. And He's kind of warning them here, too, that, God's brought you through this. You see other nations doing it. Don't let that bitterness take root where you would want to turn away from the one true God and worship these other gods, thinking that that would be better. Because it even goes on to say in verse 19, when someone hears the words of this oath, the covenant He was making with them, he may consider himself exempt, thinking, I will have peace even though I follow my own stubborn heart. But this will lead to destruction. So sometimes we think we do know better, and then our hearts become stubborn and we want to go a different way from what the Lord wants us to go. But yet He promised us that He'll go with us if we just would be faithful and follow those things. And I know at the end of chapter 30, you had, I think, wrote something down that jumped out at you.
Right. At the in chapter 30, at the end of this discourse, it says in verse 19, I call heaven and earth as witnesses against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Choose life so that you and your descendants may live. Love the Lord your God, obey Him, and remain faithful to Him, for He is your life, and He will prolong your days as you live in the land the Lord swore to give to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I think that that's, He is your life. And we need to choose life, choose God, and obey Him, do those things that, He had asked us to do, and love Him.
And you and I had talked about talking about the other gods that people serve, the ones made of wood, gold, silver, but yet we could have other gods in our lives, right?
Right. Like sometimes we have ourselves, right? We worship ourselves thinking that we need to take care of ourselves and do what we want to do. Money, sometimes it's just our time we worship, and we think that it's so valuable, and we place it so high that we won't even give it to God. We want to use it for ourselves and do those things that we want to do.
Yeah, so those idols might not necessarily be another statue or something, but it could be other things in our lives that come up that we're not giving our full attention to the Lord.
Yeah, and I think that giving our attention to the Lord has kind of been a theme through the this weekend and the few sermons leading up to it. And that was also, I have one other thing that jumped out at me was in Luke. And it was in Luke 10, and it says in verse 40, but Martha was distracted by her many tasks. And she came up and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to serve alone? So tell her to give me a hand. All right. First of all, that makes me chuckle because that's exactly what sisters do, right? Like, come on. Don't you see? She's not helping me, right? Martha is distracted and focused on herself. And the Lord answers her and says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has made the right choice, and it will not be taken away from her. Here, Martha's sitting there saying, well, don't you see what she's doing? She's not even helping. Look at what she's doing. I can't believe that she's like doing that. And she's wanting Jesus to, get on Mary. But Jesus says, no, you need to focus on me as well. This is about you. It's not about her. And that reminded me when we were, talking about it, when we read it, was when Peter was told how he was going to die, and then he saw John walking up, and he says, when Peter saw John, he said to Jesus, Lord, what about him? What's going to happen to him? And Jesus says, what is it to you if he remains until I come? That's of no consequence to you, but you follow me. That's what God has always ever wanted, was us to follow him, not to focus on everything else, other people, and want to pick apart what they're doing and tell them how to live their life and what they need to do to be walking right. And Jesus is like, listen, that's of no importance to you. I've got my own plan for him, and it doesn't concern you. And sometimes they have to walk through different things than what you had to walk through. So you need to let that be, but you follow me. And God telling the Israelites, you follow me, love me, do those things, follow my commandments, and you will be blessed if that happens. But if not, the curses will come. So I think that was, most of the stuff that kind of jumped out at us. And so we just wanted to share on this Easter Sunday.
Continue to just keep drawing closer to him and reading his word and stay grounded.
Amen. That's right. Keep your eyes focused on him. And then he'll take care of all of this other stuff. And today, of all days, keeping our eyes upon Jesus, recognizing what he has done for us, and being thankful for that.
For he is risen.
He is risen indeed. All right, you guys have a great week in the Lord.